We're back with the Encyclopedia of the Ancient World, and today we're going to be talking about how things are starting to fall apart, especially for the Myceneaens. Okay, some of the things we do know is that in the second half of the 13th century BC, there was a famine throughout most of the Mediterranean. We come to know this through Egyptian records, and according to the records, that's what was going on. There was poor harvest, there was food shortages, there was huge famine that was threatening the whole area, and especially the Mycenaean way of life. Okay, the Mycenaeans, have stumbled on these difficult times. They're, famine. They're trying to just survive. They don't have enough food, and as we hopefully remember, there was several different cities with different kings, and each of these cities and villages start looking for food, and they're trying to survive, and they start attacking each other. So people start building larger walls around their cities, and they're just kind of doing whatever they have to survive. But unfortunately, this is causing more problem and death as people are just fighting each other. And so the Mycenaeans are looking for something, right? They're not being able to survive on their island, so they start to raid by seas. They start to reach out to other parts of the Mediterranean and try to basically find food. And they're raiding people mostly for food. The Egyptians eventually call these Mycenaean sea people the sea people. And they're known to have seized Cyprus. They overthrow the Hittite Empire. Eventually, though, as they push into parts of Egypt, they are completely defeated by the Egyptians under Ramses III. And the remnants of these people, these sea people specifically, are scattered over the Mediterranean. These other people from Mycenae were starting to migrate and push into other parts of Greece and Europe, trying to just survive. And these migrants and these remnants, records indicate that they were moving in the eastern Mediterranean around 1190 BC. We believe that these are the ancestors of the Etruscans in Italy. We also know that some of them went to Sicily and to Palestine. Because of all this turmoil, it kind of opens the door for another group of people called the Dorians. And they became dominant in the Peloponnesus, which is all of southern Greece, during this time. And partly they believed that as the Mycenaeans were struggling to survive and fanning out, it opened the door for them, and they take advantage of the troubles, and it increases their power. And basically, they settle into life in southern Greece. Their dialect takes root through all of this area and eventually becomes known as the Greek language. But these Dorians are not artistic people. They don't have no artistic skills. They have no writing skills. And mostly we have very little records and information during this time period. And because of that, it becomes known as the Dark Ages. And this is the period of Greece from around 1100 to 800 BC. Very little is known about this whole entire time period. The Greeks lost the art of writing. There's no records. There's very little information. It becomes very dark, so to speak, and that's why it's called the Dark Ages. Greece in general is in decline during this time. There's a huge population decrease. Again, this stems from the famine and the war that's affecting all of the Mediterranean. They completely lose most of their way of life. The palaces are gone. The cities are gone. Metalwork and pottery are pretty much dying out because people are just trying to survive. The fresco paintings are forgotten. And unfortunately for the people during this time, the daily life consists of pretty much being extremely poor, barely surviving, struggling all day long just to find enough food to sustain you for one more day type thing. They live in small brick huts and thatched roofs. And this is what's going on throughout most of the Mediterranean. However, there's an island called Euboea, which is a large island now called Evia, and this is an exception for some reason. They're trading with and different people. They establish a prosperous culture. He There's two major cities on this island, and unfortunately, the catches up to them as well, and the two cities wind up going to war against each other, and they just kind of die out, and there's not a lot known about them at this point either. So ultimately, we know everything is falling apart. The Myceneans basically come to an end at this point. People are scattered all over Greece and the Mediterranean, and it's known as the Dark Ages. Thanks.